Chapter 1, The Sand and the Ink. Welcome to Synapse Daily. Today we find a hidden treasure. It is the year 1960. The UAE was not a country yet. It was a collection of quiet states. The desert was a vast, golden ocean. Heat was the only constant ruler here. Most people saw only empty dust dunes. But one architect saw a shining diamond. He held a heavy silver fountain pen. He placed it on thick yellow paper. He did not draw oil pipelines today. He did not design storage tanks either. He drew the first line of Masdar. It was a city born before time. The ink was dark like deep water. The paper felt rough like dry earth. This was a secret, silent revolution. Nature and geometry danced on the page. The lines were sharp and very bold. They promised a life without burning coal. They whispered of a world without smoke. This draft was a ghost in 1960. It predicted a crisis 50 years early. The designer knew the oil would end. He knew the sun was the king. He mapped out a city of light. Every street was a calculated cooling vane. Every building was a shield against fire. This ink held the DNA of tomorrow. It was a blueprint for a miracle. The desert wind tried to erase it. But the paper held the vision tight. We are now entering this lost world. Step into the shadow of the ink. Chapter 2, The Architecture of Silence. The 1960 drafts look like alien math. They challenge every modern urban rule. The streets were very, very narrow. This was a choice, not a mistake. Narrow paths create long, deep shadows. The sun could never touch the ground. The ground stayed cool like a cave. The walls were painted with white lime. They reflected the harsh glare of noon. Wind towers rose like giant stone lungs. They were called bargeels in the drafts. They pulled cold air from high up. They pushed the heavy heat away fast. It was a machine made of clay. No motors were needed for this cooling. The designers studied ancient Persian windcrafts. They blended old magic with new science. Every wall had a very specific angle. The city breathed like a calm beast. The silence was a planned acoustic feature. No loud engines disturbed the morning air. Only the sound of moving wind remained. People could hear their own soft footsteps. The architecture was a shield for peace. It was a labyrinth of pure logic. It was a fortress against the sun. The drafts showed a perfect thermal balance. Heat was managed like a liquid flow. Coolness was stored in the heavy stone. This was the architecture of deep silence. It was a masterclass in passive design. It was a dream carved in rock. Chapter 3, The Ghost in the Archive. For 50 years, these papers stayed dark. They slept in a basement in London. Dust settled on the Masdar dream slowly. The 1960s were fueled by cheap oil. The world wanted speed and black smoke. Nobody wanted a city without roaring engines. The oil boom buried the solar vision. Progress was measured in barrels and grease. The Masdar drafts were called impossible dreams. Critics laughed at the solar mirror ideas. They called the wind towers primitive toys. They preferred steel towers and glass walls. But glass walls are ovens in deserts. The 1960 drafts knew this fatal truth. The math in the drafts was perfect. Physics does not care about human opinions. The truth waited for the world's fever. A young intern found the box recently. He saw the date on the folder. His hands shook as he read 1960. The technology was all there on paper. We had the keys 60 years ago. We chose the smoke instead of light. Now the ghost has finally returned home. The archive has opened its heavy heart. The blueprints are screaming at us now. They tell us what we almost had. They show us the path not taken. This is a ghost with a warning. Listen closely to its paper rustle. Chapter 4, The Forbidden Solar Vision. How do you power a city in 1960? The draft suggested mirrors and molten salt. The designers wanted to harvest the sun. They saw the sun's raw, golden anger. Silicon cells were only for space satellites. Yet, the engineers calculated the solar yields. They knew the desert was a mine. The gold was the light, not oil. They designed a central solar hearth tower. It looked like a temple to Apollo. It would have provided endless, clean power. It used the physics of concentrated heat. The mirrors moved with the sun's path. They were like sunflowers made of glass. Imagine a world without a carbon footprint. This vision started 66 years ago today. The plans included a massive battery room. They used liquid salt to store energy. The salt stayed hot through the night. The city never went dark or cold. It was a sun-powered heart in 1960. The fossil fuel giants felt the threat. They called this science dangerous fantasy lore. But the sun does not send bills. The sun does not run out quickly. The forbidden vision was too pure. It was too free for that era. We are only catching up to them. Chapter 5: A City Without Wheels. In 1960, the car was the king. Every city was built for the tire. But Masdar's drafts banned the internal combustion. The planners hated the noise of pistons. They hated the smell of burnt lead. They designed automated pods on magnetic rails. The drafts show small, sleek transit bubbles. They moved silently through the shaded vanes. They were powered by the solar hearth. You did not own a car here. You shared a fleet of clean ghosts. People walked on elevated, breezy plazas instead. The ground level belonged to the machines. The upper air belonged to human lungs. It was a radical rejection of Detroit. It was a love letter to walking. Children could play in the middle street. No one feared the sound of tires. The city was a garden for pedestrians. Walking was the primary mode of life. It kept the body healthy and strong. It kept the community close and talking. The social fabric was woven by walking. A city for people, not for steel. The 1960 vision was ahead of us. We are still stuck in traffic jams. They were already home in their pods. Chapter 6: The Thermal Labyrinth. Heat is the desert's most ruthless enemy. The 1960 drafts used a revolutionary labyrinth. Deep tunnels were dug beneath the city floor. They were called the Thermal Labyrinth system. Cool night air was trapped inside them. Stone walls absorbed this cold like a sponge. The tunnels activated when the sun rose. Air flowed slowly through these cold stones. This provided natural, silent cooling for floors. The system is an engine-free air conditioner. Drafts were filled with complex airflow maps. They understood thermodynamics better than us today. The stones acted as a giant cold battery. They charged at night and discharged daily. Simple physics rules solved a modern crisis. Tunnel walls were made of special clay. Moisture was kept balanced by this clay. The air inside was always fresh and light. Hot wind roared like a monster outside. But the labyrinth felt like spring weather. Engineers brilliantly mastered the power of nature. This labyrinth was the city's cool heart. Future generations have not even discovered this. The secrets remain hidden beneath the dust. Chapter 7: The Social Blueprint. Drafts were not just pipes and stones. They planned how humans would live together. Public squares existed every 100 meters, water fountains acted as social magnets. The city was dense but never suffocating, every street corner had a conversation area. Security came from social bonds, not tech. Eyes were always on the neighborhood street. People greeted each other in narrow paths. Privacy was protected by complex stone screens. Connections grew in shaded cafes and squares. The 1960 vision was deep and human. The IT valued the soul over commute times. The IT challenged the loneliness of modern cities. Children played safely under elderly supervision. The city was designed like one house. Social peace took the lead over individuality. Every door opened to a friend's door. The drafts were medicine for modern loneliness. Squares filled with birds and children's laughter. This social fabric was stronger than stone. It was a blueprint for human happiness. Chapter 8: The Water Reclamation Miracle. Water is more valuable than gold here. The 1960 plans recycled water 3 times. Every drop had a route and duty. Gray water was treated for the plants, vertical gardens were fed by this water, condensers collected morning moisture from air. Building surfaces had special textures for moisture. Morning mist became pure drinking water. Nothing was wasted and nothing was discarded. Closed-loop systems worked with perfect efficiency. Huge underground cisterns appeared in the drafts. These cisterns reminded of ancient Roman engineering. Yet they held modern 1960 filtration systems. Water towers were aesthetic parts of art. Small canals cooled the air naturally. Flowing water sounds gave the city peace. It was a self-sufficient desert oasis. Managing water meant managing life itself. Engineers imagined water as a perfect cycle. This cycle was Masdar's eternal life source. Chapter 9: The Materials of the Future. Glass and steel are ovens in deserts. 1960 architects avoided this modern mistake. They chose smart earth and ceramic blends. Walls were built with high-capacity heat bricks. Outer surfaces were covered in reflective crystals. These crystals reflected heat without absorbing it. Buildings stayed cool during the entire day. Windows were placed away from direct sunlight. Light was softened using clever mirror systems. All materials were local and natural sources. Lime and sand mixtures replaced heavy cement. The carbon footprint was nearly zero. Insulation techniques were beyond today's standards. Structures were planned to last a millennium. They hated plastic and temporary materials. They reshaped nature's elements with technology. The city was a sculpture of sand. It was lightweight but strong as steel. This proved a timeless science of materials. The future was hidden in these mixtures. Chapter 10: Why it was buried. Why did this grand plan fail? The answer lies in 1960s economic greed. Oil companies feared this independent city. Solar-powered people could not be controlled. Free energy was a blow to profit. Lobbies called the project a silly fantasy. Funding was cut suddenly without any explanation. Engineers received threats to stay silent. Plans were pushed to dark state archives. The world became addicted to oil then. Consumption and car culture were forced globally. Masdar's drafts became only dusty memories. Climate crises might not exist today otherwise. The future was stolen by greedy men. Drafts cried in a box for decades, but truth has no habit of hiding. Drawings in quiet rooms are breathing again. We understand why the vision was buried. This was not just a city plan. It was a shackle on human freedom. Chapter 11: The 2006 Resurrection. Dusty files finally found the light again. The year was 2006 and getting hotter. Glaciers were melting and sea levels rose. Humanity paid for its old, dark mistakes. Abu Dhabi leaders opened the secret crates. They saluted the forgotten geniuses of 1960. The Masdar City project officially started again. Modern engineers stared at the yellow pages. These men saw the future long ago. Old sketches became the new digital foundation. Solar panels were now much more efficient, but the laws of physics never changed. Shadow was still the cheapest cooling tool. Wind towers were equipped with modern sensors. Ancient Seoul met high technology once more. The city became a laboratory in sand. It was a message, not just homes. We still have a chance, Masdar said. Silent pods began gliding on the rails. Solar energy flowed freely through city veins. The 1960 dream was finally becoming real. The gates of paradise were opening wide. Chapter 12: Lessons from the Unbuilt. This city taught us very harsh lessons. Progress is not always about more fuel. Sometimes top technology just mimics nature. The 1960 drafts taught us great patience. Building cities for cars is a mistake. We must build for people and breath. Build living cells instead of concrete heaps. Masdar showed the path to energy freedom. Every sunbeam is a gift of power. Knowing wind direction beats any air conditioner. Live with nature instead of fighting it. Engineering is more than iron and steel. Engineering is actually creating a life philosophy. Every line in the drafts is ethical. Do not consume tomorrow, build it today. These lessons must spread to every city. New York and London must watch Masdar. This silent teacher speaks from the desert. Learning its language means surviving the heat. We understood this lesson much too late. But it is never too late to learn. The desert is waiting for our next move. Chapter 13, The Legacy of the Drafts. Our Synapse Daily journey ends right here. We traveled from yellow paper to Masdar. This story is more than just architecture. It is the triumph of human vision. Suppressed ideas always explode one day soon. The Masdar legacy is in our hands. Every light and every drop of water matters, all are parts of this great balance. The future is built by looking back. Drawings in that secret archive are free. They are keys to our clean future. Maybe every city will become a Masdar. Maybe the sky will stay deep blue. The silent desert wind still whispers today. We can do better and live cleaner. Keep this vision in your brave hearts. Knowledge changes the world when we share. We open this dusty page together today. Now it is our turn to write. Stay curious and thank you for listening. May the future hide in your dreams. See you in the next fascinating story. The archive remains sealed for now.